Welcome, Prime Minister. I'll get straight into it. As you would have heard, Australia is currently in the worst housing crisis in history. Can you please explain how record immigration has helped improve the affordability in housing?
Certainly. You see, the government doesn't actually have control over housing prices.
How is that, Prime Minister?
Well, the people in control are the people I have to please so I can keep my job and massive property portfolio.
So you're saying that the lobbyists that donate to the Labour and Liberal parties control housing prices?
No, 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 the Minister of Housing does that.
I'm sorry, didn't you say that the people you have to please to keep your job and massive portfolio control the housing prices?
It's a little more complicated than that.
Let's unpack it then.
Okay, so the government borrows money from the central bank because we don't like raising taxes. The Australian people don't like that. When the central bank says we've lent you enough money, that's when we need to raise taxes.
But you said you don't like doing that because the Australian people don't like to pay higher taxes.
Yes, that is correct. So what we do is open the floodgates. I mean, increase the skilled migration to raise the population of taxpayers. To help the industries with their labor shortage issues.
Mr. Prime Minister, this doesn't sound like supporting policy to aid in housing affordability.
Don't get me wrong, record immigration is to support the capital growth of my properties. Uh, I mean, to help fudge the GCP figures. To bolster the property market. To displace local families who have lived for generations in their towns and cities.
There is a narrative of supply and demand in the housing sector, supported by the mainstream media. Can you explain the government's position?
So the government ministers understand that the supply and demand controls the access and affordability of housing. Simply, we need to keep demand higher than supply to allow for greater speculation in the housing market and to continue the trend of increasing house prices.
So, how does this understanding put downward pressure on housing prices?
Well, that is very simple. The government increases immigration to raise the competition in the job market to keep wages low. When the Australian people struggle with day-to-day living, the economy stalls, which forces the central bank to lower interest rates.
Okay, I'm following so far.
When rates are lowered, it also lowers the value of the Australian dollar, which makes housing cheaper for overseas investors to purchase Australian properties. And we do have taxes and such that we charge the overseas investors so things don't run away on us.
But hasn't the housing market already run away on the Australian people and the great Australian dream?
No, not quite. Only the middle class and poor. I mean, uh, that's not what I meant. You know what I mean.
What do you mean, Prime Minister?
You see, we have a government program called the Home Guarantee Scheme, which is to support those first home buyers to get into the property market.
But, Prime Minister, this doesn't put downward pressure on housing prices to make housing overall more affordable?
Well, apparently it makes it cheaper for the first home buyers.
Excuse me, you said apparently? You're not sure, Mr. Prime Minister?
I couldn't say, Winston, because I'm not a first home buyer.
Whoa, okay. I feel like we're going around in circles here. Mr. Prime Minister, can we talk about negative gearing and the capital gains tax offset?
Certainly, we can talk about that. The GST is a great way to tax the Australian people.
Sorry, PM. The CGT, capital gains tax offset.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. What was that?
Capital gains tax offset.
I think there is something wrong with the earpiece.
I'm right in front of you, Prime Minister.
Mr. Prime Minister, your plane is waiting.
Just got to go now. Tight schemes, schedule to adhere to. Thank you, Winston.